You watch other people's story times and usually it's them being the victim and bad things happening to them. But then you come to my story times and you realize that bad things happen to other people because of me.
La 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 la.
Okay, so before I get into the story time, quick disclaimer that first of all, this story time involves like two teachers, like not really teachers, but like one teacher and one other figure of authority, okay? And I just want to say that like I'm not trying to disrespect them in any way. I'm not trying to like throw any shade. This whole video is basically me telling you guys how much of a shady 12-year-old I was. And also secondly, I would not like to throw any blame on my parents because I completely knew what I was doing and I was a manipulative little person, okay? And I manipulated them and they were just in the dark and confused about this whole situation and they thought what I was doing was like completely okay. So yeah. Okay, so I don't want to give out too much information about like when this was or whatever, but when I tell you this story, literally all I'm doing is yelling at my 12-year-old self. I probably gave away the time just by telling you how old I was, but it's okay, whatever. You figured it out. What do you want me to do now? But anyway, in history that year, we discussed ancient civilizations, and that was basically what we did the whole year. And we focused on 4 different ancient civilizations: Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and Rome. And if you don't know what Mesopotamia is, then same. I don't know either. I don't even think I was in class. At the end of the year, we were presented with a project, and we had 2 options in the project. We could either make an art piece or a piece of writing. You had to pick one of the 4 civilizations. And so like if you're making an art piece, you try to make something that was relevant to like that civilization. And for me that year, I personally found Greece to be super interesting. I thought it was just the most fun to learn about, and I decided I would make an art piece related to Greece. It's like most people that wanted to make any sort of art piece were picking Rome or Greece and making like famous monuments that you see, like maybe they were making the Parthenon or the Colosseum. Or I thought, you know, I need some extra brownie points. You know, I want to give myself an edge on this project because it counted for, I think, 30% of our grade. So I decided I would pick a monument that like, it wasn't really something that you would think of. It wasn't one of the popular ones. And it's called as the Lion of Chaironeia, and it is in Greece. The only rule for this project was that everything had to be original. You had to make it by yourself. Like you weren't allowed to just buy what you wanted to make. So that was the only rule. Your girl didn't follow it. I tell my parents my plan and I tell them this is what I want to do. And they're like, okay, whatever. And I tell them, let's go to Plaster Fun Time. And they're like, why would we go to Plaster Fun Time? And I'm like, so I can find the lion. And they're like, aren't you supposed to make it yourself? And I don't even remember how I did it, but I manipulated them. I literally manipulated them. I was like the shadiest hoe ever. I tell them, you know what, it's fine. I'm gonna like tell her that I made it. And 2 hours later, my dad, my sister, and I are literally in the car on the way to Plaster Fun Time. And for those of you, if you don't know what Plaster Fun Time is, send me your parents' contact numbers because I need to have like a one-on-one discussion with them about the morals and principles and values with which they have raised you with. Because if you don't know what Plaster Fun Time is, then so I pull up to Plaster Fun Time, about to pull like the biggest scandal in suburban Massachusetts. In time, I walk in there like the baddest bitch I know. And literally, I'm 12 years old and I'm literally a delinquent already. I don't know how I knew what I wanted was gonna be there, but I just knew. So I walk into Plaster Fun Time and it doesn't even take me 10 seconds to find what I'm looking for. I literally find the bust of the lion that I want to make, the Lion of Chaironeia. There's literally a statue of a lion sitting right there. So I go there, I pick it up, and then I tell the woman I want to paint it, and I pick my paint, and I go sit at a table. Put like primer or something, and then I swirl that shit around, and then I like spray paint it. I do all kinds of things, and it literally takes me less than an hour while kids are at home like dying, working so hard on their project, and I'm just walking out paying like $7.99. Like my dad starts taking pictures, and I, in the midst of a scandal, a literal 6th grade scandal, have the audacity to pose for pictures while I'm literally painting the lion that I did not make, which I'm gonna later pass off as my own. I'm like full on posing like this, holding my lion, doing this. That shit it didn't even dry yet. I'm like holding it and posing for it. Like, who does that? And I pull up to the bus stop wearing my, signature Skechers, 6th grade style, and this bitch walks up. Absolute hoe. Walks up, this guy. And he's holding something. And all of a sudden, I look at what he's holding. And he's actually bringing, he's bringing, I guess, his project. But then I realized that yesterday, he brought a different project. So people started asking him, and I decided to eavesdrop, but I didn't really need to eavesdrop because this guy had like a built-in microphone into his vocal cords, because like this guy literally screams, like even when he's talking, it's like he's screaming. So he tells the guy that what he brought the day before was his project, but over the weekend, he had gone to, guess where? Plaster Fun Time. And he saw this thing, and he decided to paint it, and now he wanted to show it to our teacher. I'm like, okay. What is the likelihood that he went to Plaster Fun Time on the same weekend as me? And what is the likelihood that you need validation from your teacher for an art piece that you made? Why do you need to bring it? I'm literally about to jump in front of the bus, and conveniently my bus driver tries to pull up at the exact same time. I'm literally about to lay my body in front of its tires because I am absolutely done. I am like churning. And this guy finally notices me. I see him eyeing my project, and I know that he knows where it's from. I try to act like I make it. I try to like act chill, but inside I am like screaming. I feel like an absolute cream puff just standing there. I know he's looking at my project. But anyway, I get on the bus, and then it's time to present our projects in class that day, and I walk up to the front of the class, and I literally, I just present it, and my teacher is like absolutely awestruck, because obviously, what kind of sixth grader would be able to carve this like masterpiece? But I somehow even manipulate her. Like, I don't know what was wrong with me. And then class is over, and she calls me up to her desk, because what kind of teacher would not be suspicious that a student would have been able to make that? That's something like a professional artist would have made. So she was like, how did you do it? And I don't even know where this information comes from me, but like I literally tell her the type of clay I used, how I like carved like the lion's mane, and it's like body and like the pedestal. I literally tell her like how long I let it dry, how I baked it. I'm like, okay, first of all, how do you even come up with this on the spot? And I don't even know how, but I guess she was satisfied because she was like super happy with my project. And I didn't even feel guilty. Like, what kind of person does that make me? And I try to tell myself that nothing's gonna happen, and my teacher ends up liking my project so much that she decides to display it at our like middle school library. So we had like these like bookshelves, and on top it was like all free and stuff. So we would display things there, and so she basically picked my project along with a bunch of other kids who probably actually worked really hard. She brought like a bunch of teachers to come look at them because there were some pretty great projects over there, including mine, because I didn't make it. He goes up to the teacher the next day, right? Remember his project that he brought to school? He shows it to her, and then he tells her, okay, he can't just show his project and turn his ass around and leave. No. But he tells on me. Okay, I know I cheated and stuff, but I'm pretty sure there's like a universal, like invisible understanding between the students that you don't tell on each other. And he told on me. He was literally like, I saw that exact same thing at Plaster Fun Time. Some time passes by, and a week later I'm literally in class, and I get called to the counselor's office, and I'm like walking. I know, the game's over. The biggest crime of America is up, So I'm walking. I know I'm literally about to burst into tears. I look like an actual cream egg rolling through the hallways to like so slow to the counselor's office because I just know what's waiting for me. And then I reach the hallway to the counselor's office, and I have two options. I can literally run out of the school. Like, I'll draw a map for you guys. I'll draw a map and put it over here. So I can either run out of the school and continue living my life as America's Most Wanted, and someday maybe I'll trip over an M&M and die in a ditch, and that'll be that, but at least no one would have caught me. Or I can just walk into the counselor's office and just look like an absolute cow and just surrender. Now that I think about it, I probably should have picked the first option, but you know, I guess I had to be nice and admit to my mistakes. So I walk into the counselor's office and literally about to completely, like absolutely fall on the floor and roll all over and sob. But you know, I keep myself together and I sit there and she's like, is there something you want to tell me? I'm like, stop beating around the bush, woman. I know I've been caught. And then I'm really grateful for what happened next because they were like, we know you're a good student, so we're not going to do anything about it, but you know, you should apologize. And I'm like, I turned to my teacher and I literally can't look at her face because I literally want to cry. And I look at her and I'm like, sorry, Mrs. and then her name. Then I just walked out of there, went home, cried myself to bed, cried myself awake for school the next day. The moral of the story is basically, I'm not gonna say don't cheat because sometimes it's a part of life, okay? I'm not gonna tell you to not cheat. But if you have to cheat, only cheat on stuff that doesn't matter, okay? Don't cheat on like some huge test or some huge project that's gonna be a huge percent of your grade or something that's gonna really affect your life. If it's some random class test, obviously you can cheat. I'm not saying you shouldn't or anything, but it'd be nice if you don't.